Our next guest is an attorney and principal at Dean Law Group. She's consistently considered the top of her class by her peers, and please help me welcome Marianne Dean.
Hi there. Marianne, thank you for being here today. It's an honor to have you. And the 20 years of litigation and litigation experience and writing estate plans gives you a lot of background into what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with the what ifs. And we know usually the if comes out of there and what does happen. So how does one protect themselves and their assets as they age?
Well, primarily by taking a forward view and thinking about how their life is likely to play out. I mean, for example, my spouse and I have a granny flat built over the garage of our home. We built that for my mother when she was still living and staying with us, partly to provide a space for her that was, tucked under our wing where she wanted to be. But it made a lot of sense for us to do that because as we get older, we want to stay in our home. It's a one-level house, and we'll need some place to put the caregivers because we don't want them underfoot. So thinking down the road and taking action is one of the best things that you can do. And, I do estate planning, so obviously a comprehensive estate plan is part of that.
Marianne, with your 20 plus years of litigation experience and being in front of the judge on many, many occasions and doing a great job, because Patty and I have been able to sit and watch you work, and it's really an honor to watch you work. Tell us some experiences that you've seen over the years that you can share with the audience.
About people who fail to plan?
Failed to plan, exactly.
Yeah, they wind up in court. I'm on the court's appointment panel, and when people file a petition for conservatorship, which is a legal proceeding to appoint somebody with the legal authority to take care of someone who has lost the ability to do that, when those petitions are filed, the court appoints counsel. And there are 25 or so of us in San Diego who are on that list. I'm one of them. And so I've represented any number of people who are the subject of the conservatorship proceedings, which in many cases can be avoided if they just do an estate plan. If they pick people that they trust, if they sign documents appointing those folks with the legal authority to step in and pay their bills and make medical decisions, decide where they're going to live, take care of them from a legal perspective. And, when they don't do that, they wind up with a court having to intervene.
And what kind of dollars and cents are we talking about? And that is public information. What kind of dollars and cents are people talking about when they do this procedure?
A conservatorship proceeding can cost anywhere more, it starts at about $5,000 and goes up from there, depending on how litigious the other side is. If you've got a whole bunch of family members who all have a separate, different idea about what should happen with mom or dad, they all wade into court and they generally bring lawyers. And so, the billable hour rate for the room of lawyers can be pretty significant, and it can all be avoided.
And that's by doing an estate plan and really talking about what your wishes are ahead of time.
Yes, and involving the entire family in that conversation at some point so that nobody's caught by surprise. Everybody understands, okay, when, mom or dad or Aunt Edna or Uncle Bill get to the point where they can't take care of themselves and they need someone to step in, here's going to be the person who steps in, and this is the next one in line, and here's how we're going to proceed. If the family has an understanding in advance of how that's going to go, they don't ever show up in court.
I'm sure in your experience you've probably seen and heard it all. Is there any recurring theme that keeps coming back to probate court that you would like the message to get out there to say, hey, let's try to put a stop to this, or let's try to reduce the occurrence of this appearing in court every time?
Well, in addition to conservatorship matters, there's also financial elder abuse that is a large part of my practice. And if families stay involved with their aging family members and take an interest, then they can circumvent somebody taking advantage of them. I take great pleasure in pursuing thieves and bad guys, for lack of a better word. People who think that they're going to help themselves to an elder's money because they can, because the elder no longer can really put up as good of a fight any longer. But it costs money to do that. And sometimes, you know, the money's been spent and the elder is left in a position of having limited assets and nobody has the money to pursue anything in court, and that should be avoided.
Marianne, pursuing that line of financial elder abuse, do you have any personal experience that you can share with the viewing audience on that subject?
Well, sadly, yes, I do. My own mother was subject to another family member who came in under the guise of, you know, the helpful person. I'm going to come in and take care of you when she had some medical issues. And the next thing we know, Adult Protective Services is involved. This was over in Arizona. And it's discovered that the helpful family member has actually helped himself to about $30,000 of my mother's money by running her credit cards up. And, you know, that nonsense was shut down and she was protected, but it required family members and Adult Protective Services to step in and circumvent that.
So for people here in San Diego, we do have Adult Protective Services. And again, sometimes it's really hard when it's a family member doing it. Is there any sign or something that you would really advocate to loving and caring family members to watch out for amongst the siblings to make sure this doesn't happen?
Well, the typical scenario is you've got an aging parent who has taken care of one of the siblings because that sibling somehow isn't able to stay employed or has some substance abuse problems or is in some way themselves impaired. And so, you know, the elders become accustomed over the years to kind of helping that kid out along the line and bailing them out maybe sometimes. And so as things progress and the elder starts to age, the other siblings need to be alert to the fact that you know, their less than fully functional sibling or family member can very quickly turn into a parasite. And when Adult Protective Services shows up on the doorstep because someone has called and said, hey, I think, you know, Joe is taking advantage of his mother, Mom will continue to try and protect Joe and say, no, 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 there's nothing wrong. So another thing that needs to happen is that people need to educate the elder that continuing to acquiesce and help the impaired family member out isn't really helping, because they will be gone at some point and that support will be gone with them. So the kindest thing that they can do to the child with challenges, shall we say, is to force them to start figuring out how to be on their own 2 feet and not acquiesce.
So Marianne, you know, trying to make the decision of whether or not to stay or to move to another living environment, that's a big decision for family members to make. So how do you guide your clients into planning and making those kinds of decisions?
Well, first of all, you need to understand that the California Probate Code requires that an elder who wants to stay in their own home is perfectly entitled to do that. It's considered to be the best placement for them to stay in their own home, but that's subject to them having the resources and the assets to ensure that their home remains a warm and welcoming and safe place. So they have to be able to have resources to have sufficient in-home care if they don't have family on board to do that. Structurally, their home needs to be properly set up for maximum safety. So it's often helpful for people to consult with a professional crew who come in and they'll do an assessment of the home and say, oh, move that area rug, or, you know, we've got to put some grab rails in the bathroom, or, you know, they'll identify potential hazards. And so it's helpful if people can start looking at that as they get closer to retirement so that they can supervise their own modifications. And then they can have the conversation with their family and say, look, I want to stay here. These are the things that I'm doing to ensure that I have the ability to do that, and I need your help. And then families just need to support that.
Do you see that more and more coming into your office? I mean, do you see people being more proactive over the in terms of your career in this field, or is it still people just don't bring it up?
You know, for the most part in my practice, it comes up when I've been appointed by the court to represent someone in a conservatorship. my client, the conservatee, and I will have a meeting about the conservatorship petition, who is being proposed to step in and make legal decisions. And when my client says, no, I don't want to move, then that oftentimes becomes part of the negotiation going forward to resolve the court case. And we get to talk to people. We hire experts, and we get the analysis done so that my client can demonstrate that they have the ability to stay in their own home, sometimes over the objections of their family members. My grandmother, who died last August at 107 with...
107.
Wow.
Yes.
That is just amazing.
She lived in her home pretty close to the end of her days, and she was quite adamant about it. I had one of her children, I won't even mention which gender, had a conversation with one of her children who was expressing frustration that she was choosing to stay in her home, and all of her kids felt this was a bad decision, that she wasn't being smart about this, and the subject of conservatorship came up. And so, I turned to the family member and I said, well, good luck with that, because there's no court that's going to conserve her, because she can still make all of her own decisions. She has all of her capacity. I pointed out that one of my cousins at 22 was making some pretty terrible decisions, and nobody was filing conservatorship papers for her. And I think I made my point.
And that person probably in their 80s, if it's her child who's saying 70s.
Yeah, 70s. But they're all pretty spry.
Yeah,
my father's 81.
I love your gene, I love that gene pool there. That is fabulous. Again, if you have any questions on this topic, and it is a complex topic, probate, conservatees, that whole realm, please get a hold of Marianne Dean at the Dean Law Group. She will provide you with great input and advice upon your asking. Again, Senior Stay or Go is all about senior advocacy, providing the resources and the tools for you to make the great decisions for your highest quality of life. We will have many more guests to come out through the year. Please come back. Stay tuned for Senior Stay or Go TV. Thank you.
Look around. You'll find a brand new day before you. And simple things that matter most. Friends, family, ocean breezes. This is Wesley Palms, a full-service retirement community. Look ahead. A modern expression of home is coming to life here. The all-new Patio Homes. Living spaces designed around you. We call it 360-degree living. Reserve your new patio home today